Deathbringer here. Get my t-shirt below. Guaranteed to raise your charisma by at least +1.
My sad year without Dungeons & Dragons, today on Dungeon Craft.
Deathbringer here. Subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out on any cool content.
Welcome to Dungeon Craft. I'm Professor Dungeon Master, and this channel is about playing the ultimate game of D&D and other tabletop RPGs. Back when I first entered high school, I was obsessed with a new game called Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. I spent the whole summer playing it, and when I went back to school, I spent more time doing that than on my studies, and as a result, my grades suffered, and I failed a number of subjects in the first report card of freshman year. I went to this private school, and they didn't have parent-teacher night. They had failure night. They didn't want to see the star students. They wanted the weakest links. It was even on the school calendar, like, this Wednesday is failure night, and they made announcements that all failures must attend, and my friends were like, dude, are you going to that? And I was like, yeah, I'm a failure. And at failure night, I had to stand in line with my dad and all the other failures and talk to my teachers, and they all told my dad I had lots of potential, which is even worse than saying he's a dummy, because it implies I could do better if I only applied myself. And to help me apply myself, my parents took away all my D&D books for the rest of the year, telling me Dungeons & Dragons was a waste of time and it would never get me anywhere in life. And they banished me to my room and gave me nothing to read but school books and told me I couldn't come out until my average was a 90. But at the same time, adults, including my teachers, had insisted I watch this TV movie called The Day After about a nuclear war, and they pretty much convinced a generation of kids we weren't going to live to see age 30. So I was damned if I was going to spend what little time I had left on Earth studying algebra and not playing D&D. But how? How could I play D&D without my player's handbook, my Dungeon Master's Guide, or Monster Manual? All I had was a fistful of dice and some graph paper. So I got to work making a character sheet, and it looked like this. 6 ability scores, armor class, hit points, equipment, and yeah, that was it. Monsters could be reduced to armor class, hit points, damage, and special attacks. For spells, I remembered the greatest hits. Magic Missile, Sleep, Fireball. I didn't remember the exact ranges or casting times, but these are the things my friends always argued about anyway. Without the book, we didn't waste time looking the spells up. I would just tell them what they did and they would have to accept it. Then I reduced the attack matrix and thief ability charts to just 4 target numbers. 5 was easy, 10 medium, 15 difficult, 20 improbable. And when characters leveled up, I just lowered the target number to make it easier. And that was it. That was the whole game. And you know what happened? The game worked better. It was faster, more fluid, more fun. There was no arguing, and I didn't have to carry a stack of hardcover books everywhere. Armed with this knowledge, I went to school and ran D&D on every lunch and study period, encouraging others to neglect their schoolwork and kill monsters instead. In the end, I failed algebra and had to go to summer school. But I didn't mind, because I discovered the coolest girls went there. And because I went to an all-boys school, it was the only opportunity I had to meet them. Eventually I passed, and I learned it made absolutely no difference in my life. And I got my D&D books back too, but by this time it was like a year later and I didn't need them anymore. The game was already in my head. I had discovered a fundamental truth of RPGs, famously articulated by D&D's co-creator Gary Gygax. The secret we should never let the game masters know is that they don't need any rules. And by that he meant all the attack charts, saving throws, armor classes, monster stats were just suggested target numbers. Ability score bonuses, racial bonuses, feats, skill points, all that stuff are just bonuses to a d20 roll, and because the die only has 20 sides, each +1 is only a 5% difference. And you can spend all day customizing your dual-wielding half Aasimar, half Tiefling Shadow Rogue Artificer, and calculating exact skill points and coordinating your feats for maximum synergy, but I still set the difficulty class. A roll of 15 or better usually succeeds, a roll of 9 or lower usually fails, and a roll of 10 to 14 is a maybe. So just chuck the dice and get on with it, because if you roll a 2, it doesn't really matter. And once you know this, you don't feel as much of a need to consult rule books or feel compelled to run out and order the latest edition. You can make like an Aasimar and just wing it. Today at my table, once the game has begun, no one is allowed to consult the rules, including me, and I never take rule books to conventions. And if we don't know the exact range of a magic missile or precise damage for burning hands, I just decide and we move on. My parents thought they were punishing me, but they really did me a favor, forcing me to reconstruct the D&D game from memory and internalize its mechanics. 40 years later, I'm still playing, and I'm still worried about nuclear war. But even if one doesn't occur, I know life is short, and I want to spend my time playing RPGs, not looking up rules. But hey, that's what I think. What do you think? Please share in the comments below. Also below, you'll find links to Dungeon Craft on Facebook and Patreon, where you can get my Rules Light retro clone Deathbringer with layout by Runehammer, plus links to my latest module, Professor Dungeon Master's Frankenstein on Quest Givers. But don't go away, check out these videos where we do reviews, and I tell you why old school games are so great. I'll see you soon, may all your rolls be 20s.
Deathbringer again, if you haven't seen the day after. It is hilarious. And click on these videos to watch me kick more ASMR.